Hey guys, welcome back. Hey, gonna start off. Sorry, I'm just doing these things consecutively so that I don't run too long on the videos. But in the last one, I was talking about my life change basically, and what had happened was I was coming home from the skate park one night in my late teens with my girlfriend. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning. We were coming. She worked at the skate park in Pipeline in Upland there, and I was coming back. Had my best friend and his girlfriend in the car at the time, and then my girlfriend, and we'd be driving home. I was actually sober that night. Very rare situation, but I was just cruising up. Had an old '70s Nova, and I'm driving up the road. And I used to say that there was this one turn that if I ever wanted to commit suicide, I would just drive my car off of, because it was a 200-foot drop straight down to a road. So there was no way you were going to live through it. But it was a 15 to 20 mile an hour hairpin turn on Baseline Road in Laverne, where we lived. And I was driving, super dark, pitch black, no lights out there. Baseline's kind of a dark road anyways. But I'm cruising down with my girlfriend, kind of got my arm around her. I'm relaxed, one arm in it. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this little orange Porsche comes sliding across my front end, just going like 60. And he scared me, so I jerked my wheel. And when I jerked my wheel to the right, the road I was in the middle of a turn. So it was a 15 to 20 mile an hour turn. And when I swerved towards that, just out of shock, he scared the crap out of me. So when I swerved, what happened was I swerved to the right. Well, the road, there's no pull off right there, so it was the cliff. And basically what happened was I swerved towards the cliff, and then I quickly swerved back to the right and dropped my car down into low, because I had posi traction in my rear end on my Nova. And I dropped that thing into low, and the right wheel had gone off the road. It was actually off the cliff, so I was only on 3 wheels, and I kind of fishtailed it out, and then the car popped back up on the road. Well, the guy in the Porsche had no idea how he made it through the corner, completely out of control. He didn't have any lights on. He was drunk, stoned, whatever. Well, he took off. I ended up chasing him down, and he had stopped at a stop sign half a mile up the road or whatever, and I was done. I snapped, and I got out of my car and I ran over and I jumped on his hood and I started punching his windshield as hard as I could, just punching it. Caved his hood in. A 911 doesn't have an engine in the front, so it's pretty easy, but I caved his hood in. I ripped his mirror off. I ripped his windshield wipers off. I was in a full rage at that point, and I was holding on to the where the windshield wipers are, where the hood connects, because it was like a grip. And I was just punching the glass where this guy's face was. And he reached under his seat and he pulled out a gun. Don't know what kind of gun. It was just a semi-automatic, like a 9mm, 1911 Glock, whatever. But he reaches under there and he pulls his gun out. And this is California, so only criminals carried guns in Cali at the time. But he reached under his seat and he pulls out this gun and he loads the round in the chamber, and he points it right at me through the windshield. Get off my car, punk, or you're dead. And I looked at him, I just said, go ahead, pull the trigger. And I said a couple words that I'm not gonna say because I want everybody to be able to listen to this. But, I just held on to that car as tight as I could, man. I just sat there and punched the windshield. And I started yelling at him, just pull the trigger, pull the trigger, pull the trigger. And he popped the safety off and he goes, you got 3 seconds, I'm gonna kill you. And this guy wasn't shaking. He was in a suit, really well-dressed guy, and wasn't shaking at all, man. And when he popped that safety off, it made me mad, and I just said, pull the trigger, pull the trigger. You don't pull a gun out if you're not gonna use it, pull the trigger. And I just kept punching. And he said 1, and he got to 2, and right before he hit 3, my buddy did this like Starsky and Hutch thing over the hood of my car and basically slid across the hood and just wrapped me up, bear hugged me, and took me to the ground. and the Porsche dude drove off. And I got up and he wouldn't let me go. My buddy wouldn't let me go. He's like, dude, what's wrong with you? And the car was parked where my girlfriend and his girlfriend and him could all see it. And at that time, his dad was very high up in the LA County Sheriff's at the time. And awesome family, awesome guy. This dude would come back into my life later on. But his dad was one of those guys that would take me to church, and I'd sit in the front row, and part of our deal living at his house was I had to go to church on Sunday. And I would sit there and I would laugh at the pastor. And I just like, dude, you're so stupid. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot. This is all lies. And I would just sit there and nonstop mock this guy. And I'd look over at my friend's dad, and he'd just be crying. He'd just be crying, dude. This guy's a sheriff. He's a big, tough guy, you know, and he's seen a lot of stuff in his life. And I'd look over at him and just be crying and just shake his head at me. And you could just see the hurt that was in him and for me, you know, and I didn't know what that meant at the time. But like I say, later on in my life, well, that he comes back around. And one of the things that really set me off is I was not afraid of dying that night. I was more mad because the guy had pulled a gun and not used it. And I was coming right up on 18 years old. It was right before Halloween, I remember. And it traumatized my girlfriend so bad. I don't know that she still doesn't think about it and freak out. But she was so traumatized by it, man. And shortly after that, when I would meet Tiffany, who's my wife now. But what happened was when we were driving, I damaged my car. So when I threw it into park, I thought I threw it into park. I actually threw it into reverse when I caught up to the guy when I jumped out. The car came sliding in, kind of cool, like, you know, cool, full locked up, you know, Grand Theft Auto kind of thing. And I busted the rear end in my tranny. So I needed a ride. Girlfriend had set up with this chick to give me a ride to work, give me a ride to her place out in Upland so I could skate after work and stuff. So here I am, I'm 18 years old. I'm still looking for the dude in the orange Porsche because I still want to kill this guy. And here comes this chick in a little Porsche, and I think it was a 924. And she comes pulling up, and I'm like, who's this? Like, what the heck? You know, standing there all punkered out and skateboard and smoking a cigarette. And she pulls up and she's like, you Joe? I go, yeah. And she goes, I'm Tiffany. I'm supposed to give you a ride. So I jump in her car, and the only thing this chick will say to me is, if you don't change your ways, you're gonna go to hell. And I'm like, you know, I'm trying to mind my own business. I'm smoking my cigarettes in her car, and she didn't say nothing about that. But that was it. You know, hey, if you don't change your ways, you're gonna go to hell. And I told her, I said, I already live in hell. I'm not afraid. Devil's my best friend. You know, I was a cocky kid, and some of the stuff that I felt, you know, I told her, I said, I already live in hell. Been in hell my whole life. And that's understandable when you're looking at stuff, when you see it from a kid's perspective. You got to be able to grasp a hold of life. You got to be able to grasp the things that go on. Well, what would happen is, just through, you know, a couple weeks, this chick would pick me up every day, and all she would say to me is, you're gonna go to hell. And one day she goes, hey man, you wanna go somewhere with me? And I was like, yeah, cool, whatever, you know. And if she was a dude, I would have punched her for the way she treated me, but she was a super hot chick, so I figured I'd tolerate it. But she goes, well, I'll drive, I get to pick the place. I was like, okay, cool. And she drove me to a Bible study. You know, drives me to this auditorium, and you know, I got a Bones Brigade jacket on at the time with the big old Anarchy A, you know, Rat Bones skull on it. Got 666 painted on my jacket, and you know, wearing my makeup, wearing my earrings, my eyeliner and whatnot, and So I'm all punkered out the best I could for an 80s punk. And we walk up to this building, and I'm like, what is this? And she goes, don't worry about it. I'm like, what are all these people doing here? Is it a concert? What's going on? You know, and I had no idea that they have Bible studies or anything at this school. And we walk in, and the second I walk in the room, all the kids were in there just talking. And all of a sudden, we walk in the room, and man, it's dead silent. And everybody kind of like a gasp, you know, oh no, it's Joe, you know, and all the kids in town knew who I was. And all of a sudden the room went silent. I'm like, what's going on? She goes, come on. And we went and we sat right in the front row. You know, this chick just walks me down and sits me down. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? And this guy comes out and starts preaching, and I just snapped. And he starts preaching, and I'm sitting there, and I listened for a few minutes, and I just looked at him. I go, you know, you're an effing idiot, dude. I'm out of here. Like, this is stupid. And I got up to walk away, and the pastor at the time was Raul Reese. And Raul looks at me, and he says, listen, I'm going to tell you something I've never said from the pulpit before. And he goes, if you walk out of here tonight, you will know tomorrow that there's a hell. And I didn't understand what that meant. Like, I already live in hell. I don't care about hell. It didn't really click. But what he was saying to me was God had given him a vision that if I left there that night, I would be dead and I would go to hell. And so I was like, yeah, whatever, dude, I don't care. And he goes, listen, you've been telling people your whole life that your dad's dead. You know he's not. You know that, you know, that's just hurt. Like, he starts hitting on these things in my life that were they were secrets that I kept real deep in my heart. And he starts hitting on those things, man. And he's like, you know, you've been looking for a daddy your whole life, and you're never going to find one. And like, I'm standing there listening to this, and I'm like, I'm up, I'm ready to walk away. And he goes, and that kid that you've been wondering about, he goes, he's alive. He was talking about the black kid that I left for dead, and I thought I killed him. And nobody knew about that except me and the kid and God himself. And he said, he's alive and he's okay. And I was just like, dude, what the heck? Now, you got to understand, this is not normally a prophetic teacher or anything. And so he's kind of tripping too a little bit. And he's just like, I don't know, man, this is not my normal deal. And basically at that point, he said, Joe, he said, God loves you. He wants to be your dad. You're never going to find an earthly father that can take care of you. He goes, but God will take care of you no matter what. He'll never abandon you. And at that point, it just broke me, because I was so empty. I was so lost, and I would break at that point. And that was it for me, man. And something happened that night in my life. And I'm not going to say it was, you know, I didn't see the clouds part or anything like that. I didn't see any spiritual visions or anything weird like that stuff. But not to say it doesn't happen, because, you know, you'll find out later. There's definitely some stuff that goes on. But what I realized was that the things that this guy was talking about were the three things in my life that only me and God knew about. And when he hit on all of those, there was no question that somebody was giving him information. And at first I got kind of irritated, like, is this chick like a spy? And, you know, went into straight irritation mode. Is she my girlfriend telling her? Well, I hadn't told my girlfriend a lot of this stuff, because you don't go around telling somebody you think you killed somebody. That's not cool. And if you want to stay out of jail, you don't, if you're not stupid. But all these things this guy was saying, there was no question that it was God. There was no question in my heart that something huge was going on. And he told me again, he said, listen, I'm telling you, if you leave here tonight, you will know there's a hell in the morning. And he offered me a prayer, and I took his prayer, man. I couldn't take it fast enough at that point. Something was going on in my heart, and I felt a change. I just felt a break, and I just started bawling. I haven't cried in years. And at that point in my life, man, I just broke. I broke. And God just started pouring stuff into me and giving me peace and giving me comfort and giving me understanding in my life. And I was still a punk kid. You know, you don't change overnight, but my heart changed. And that's what really radiated in my life at that point. And that's what really started this whole next phase that I'm going to share with you guys is, you know, when that happened in my life, it was one of those things that there was no denying that God was specific with me at that point in my life. It was very specific. It was, Joe, this is who you are now. You're no longer this person. And the excitement that I got in the next couple of weeks, and I'm gonna stop here, but the next couple of weeks, the things that go on, you guys, are a Hollywood, you know, bestseller. They're a number one movie. You know, every one of the stories is crazy, but I'm gonna share them with you because I want you guys to know the truth. And you know, I'm not gonna use real names. I'm not gonna tell you who everybody is, but they are real people. They are real stories, and it was really my life. So I'm gonna stop here. We'll see you guys at the next video. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tell your friends about this video. I would love the opportunity to get to know some of you guys and just be able to see what you think about this. And let's keep this thing going. I'm gonna get on to the next video. All right.